Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Today we are getting into some of the wildest parts of the animal kingdom. We're talking about the most extreme, totally bizarre, and sometimes downright brutal ways animals make sure they have a next generation. All right, let's just dive right in. So think about it. When you hear survival, your mind probably goes to things like hunting or camouflage, right? But the absolute fundamental drive to reproduce, oh, that pushes animals to the very edge of what's possible, biologically and behaviorally. And the stakes, they honestly could not be any higher. And we are going to see all of it. I mean, we're talking about everything from brutal underwater battles and some incredibly elaborate lies, all the way to biological puzzles that still have scientists just scratching their heads. Okay, first up, the sand tiger shark. And listen, don't let that kind of goofy, gentle-looking smile fool you. When it comes to making babies, their life cycle is one of the most ruthless in the entire ocean. So it all kicks off with this relentless chase. Eventually, the male bites down hard on the female's fin just to get a grip, often leaving scars. Then he actually flips her completely upside down. This triggers a state called tonic immobility, which is basically a kind of temporary paralysis that makes her docile. The whole thing is over in about a minute, and then he's gone.
Now, you'd think that's where the violence ends, but no, that was just the warm-up act. The truly brutal part of the story happens inside the womb.
And it all comes down to this absolutely wild concept, adelphophagy. It's Greek, and it literally means to eat one's brother. See, after fertilization, dozens of eggs start developing inside the female's two uteruses. But the first embryos to hatch, already armed with teeth, by the way, they don't wait around. They start hunting and eating their own siblings. Which brings us to the final brutal count. Out of all those potential baby sharks, only 2 survive. One dominant pup emerges from each uterus. It gets to that point by having devoured all of its siblings and even feasting on unfertilized eggs that the mother keeps providing as extra food. It is the ultimate survival of the fittest, a battle that's won before they ever even see the ocean. But you know, not every strategy is about pure brute force. Next up, we're going to look at 2 totally different approaches. One is built on some seriously cunning deception, and the other on the ultimate sacrifice. And what a contrast this is. On one side, you have the lyrebird, an absolute master of illusion. And on the other, the male drone ant, whose entire life is basically a one-way ticket to oblivion. The male lyrebird is basically nature's DJ. He literally builds a little stage for himself on the forest floor and puts on this incredible show. He can perfectly mimic dozens of sounds from his environment. And not just other birds. We're talking chainsaws, camera shutters, you name it, all to impress a female. So what happens if his big concert just isn't cutting it? Well, the second the female starts to leave, he pulls his ace card. He lies. He instantly mimics the chaotic sound of a predator attack or a whole flock of birds in a panic. The female, thinking she's in immediate danger, instinctively freezes up and looks for protection from the very bird who just faked the whole emergency. It's a brilliant move, you gotta admit, even if it is dishonest.
Now, the drone ant's story is way more direct. He's born from an unfertilized egg, and his entire life is programmed for one single thing. On one perfect day, millions of them take to the sky in this massive mating flight. They find a queen from another colony, they fulfill their one and only purpose, and immediately after, they die. That's it. A whole life built for just a single final act. All right, for our final section, we're looking at 2 cases where biology itself seems to just go completely off the rails. This leads to some truly strange behaviors, and in one case, a scientific mystery that we still can't solve. To get what's going on with goats, we first have to talk about something called the rut. This is an annual period where a male's hormones go into absolute overdrive, and their behavior becomes, well, let's just say extreme. And when I say extreme, I mean they urinate on their own faces. The powerful smell is supposed to attract females, but it's so potent it can actually give the goat chemical burns on its own skin. They are so driven by these hormones that they'll try to mate with literally anything that's vaguely goat-sized, and they settle arguments with headbutts so violent they sound like rocks smashing together. So, after all that chaos, the female gives birth about 5 months later, and the technical term for a goat giving birth is, and I swear I'm not making this up, kidding. She is quite literally kidding. Okay, now for a real head-scratcher. Meet the Indonesian fanged frog. Now, almost all frogs lay eggs that get fertilized externally, but this one, it's the only known frog in the entire world that gives birth to live tadpoles. So the question is, how? And here's the puzzle. To have a live birth, they have to have internal fertilization. The sperm has to get inside the female. But they don't have the specific body parts that other animals use to do this. And even though scientists have known about this frog for decades, no one has ever actually seen them mate. Scientists have come up with a few ideas, a few different positions, that might just let their anatomy line up correctly. But really, these are all just educated guesses. The actual act remains a complete mystery. So what does all of this tell us? All the violence, the deception, the sacrifice, and just the pure weirdness? Well, it all comes back to a single, unbelievably powerful force. I mean, think about it. Each animal we've talked about has evolved its own unique and often extreme solution to the exact same problem. Whether it's brutal cannibalism in the womb, incredibly elaborate deception, a life of total sacrifice being driven by hormonal overdrive, or a biological process that is still a complete mystery to us. And every single one of these behaviors, no matter how strange or how brutal they might look to us, is powered by the single most fundamental rule in nature: that unwavering, uncompromising drive to pass on your genes and continue the species. It's really a powerful reminder that life will find a way, often in the most unexpected forms imaginable. Which kind of leaves us with one final question. If this is what evolution has come up with so far, what on earth could possibly be next?